Hey guys, welcome back to another video on PS4 Linux. If you have been following me on social media and on my Discord channel, you would know that I've been working on a very special OS for the PS4, that is Batocera. So let me just quickly introduce what Batocera is before we go into the video. So this is the official web page of Batocera. It says that Batocera.linux is an open source and completely free retro gaming distribution that can be copied to a USB stick or an SD card, blah blah blah. So basically this is an awesome OS that lets you convert almost any machine, including even a Raspberry Pi 3, into an emulation station. That is, you could turn it into a retro gaming console which could run multiple generations of games from multiple retro consoles, including the Wii and at the same time N64, NES, and almost everything that exists in the world today, even including the PS3, and I think this also includes the Switch emulator. Okay. So with this video, I'm going to show you how you could get Batocera working on your PS4 and thus convert your PS4 into a retro gaming console or whatever you call it. Let's call it an arcade station. Okay. Now you guys have waited a long time for this Batocera. Actually, I have been getting requests for Batocera for PS4 since the time I started this channel from multiple people. So this is the culmination of all of that, and I'm glad to say that Batocera works pretty fine on PS4 as of now. It might require improvements here and there, and that's what I need from you guys, that is feedback. So let us just jump into the video and see how you could install Batocera for PS4 on your PS4. Okay. First, we're going to discuss the requirements. I'm not going to cover the basic requirement, that is obviously you need a jailbreakable PS4, which currently is a PS4 that runs on 9.00 or below. Okay, and you will also need a USB hub and the keyboard and mouse and even a controller, a DS4, that is a DualShock 4 will also work with Batocera pretty well. I'll also show you how you could connect your DS4 to the Batocera for PS4. And then you're going to need these files, that is the distro itself. Okay, and then you're going to need the kernel and then the initramfs. I'm going to use my multi-boot initramfs. You're free to use any one of these. Okay, but the naming of the drive depends on the initramfs that you use. We'll talk about that later. Now, talking about the kernel, I would suggest that you go for a 5.x plus kernels because these have better Vulkan support. Due to some issue with my capture card, I'm forced to use a 4.14 kernel right now for this tutorial. But I've also tested 5 plus kernels and they work pretty well with Batocera. You could experiment with different kernels to find out which gives you the best performance. Okay. Now, once that has been accounted for, next thing you'll require is the Linux machine. I'm going to stress on this. I'm going to recommend that you use an Ubuntu based distro for the installation process, because I've seen that when you use Fedora or Arch Linux for this installation, it usually ends up in troubles and the distro fails to boot on PS4. So I would suggest that you use an Ubuntu based distro. This here is Lubuntu. You could either install it on your system, or if you feel like using a virtual machine, use that too. Okay, I'm using a virtual machine here. As you can see, this is VirtualBox. Okay. And once you have Linux, you also have to make sure that you have a piece of software called gparted installed. It is nothing but a simple GUI based partition manager. We have been talking about this gparted and I've also shown you how to use it in my earlier videos. So I am sure that many of you have already installed it, but since we are on Ubuntu, I'm going to show you how to install it very quickly. You're going to start up a terminal and type sudo space apt space install and then gparted, and then press enter. You'll have it installed within no time. Okay, so now that we have gparted installed too, now we're going to see how we could prepare the USB drive for the installation of Batocera onto it, and then we're going to install Batocera onto it. Okay, after that we'll also set up the drive for proper use with the PS4. Okay, and in this tutorial I will also cover the other basics like moving games and ROMs to your Batocera drive and connecting your DualShock 4 to it and accessing the terminal on Batocera and basic stuff like that. Okay, so first of all, let us partition our drive properly for the installation of Batocera, and for that I'm going to open up a terminal and then type sudo space gparted and then press enter. Provide your password. Okay, and here we have it. Now go to this device selection menu and choose your drive properly. This is my drive, the 180 GB SSD. So I do have some partitions here. For the sake of starting afresh, I'm gonna delete all these partitions and show you how you could set it up from scratch. Okay, so for that I'm gonna unmount each drive one by one. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to each drive and delete it. Okay, you can also click here to delete it. So now we have an unallocated SSD. I'm gonna click on this tick and then click on apply. Okay, and then I'm also going to make sure that this is an MS-DOS partition. So I'll go into device and click on create partition table and make sure that MS-DOS is a selected one. Otherwise, if you see that it is anything else, this won't work. Batocera won't boot off your drive. So make sure that it is MS-DOS and click on apply. Now once that is done, we're going to set up partitions one by one. I'm going to click here to set up my first partition, and this partition is going to be a FAT32 partition. So change the file system to FAT32 and come to new size and change it to 50 MB. Okay, and then click on add. So here we have the FAT32 partition. Now I'm going to add another partition right here. This partition will have to be an ext4 partition, and the label will depend on the initramfs you're using. For example, if you're using the PS Zeta initramfs, then this should be PS Zetarch. Okay, and then some for NASCII, I guess it is Arch and stuff. You'll have to check the documentation of your initramfs for the exact label. Okay, now in this tutorial, I'm going to be using my multi-boot script. And if you have already seen my video on multi-boot script, that is a detailed tutorial, you would know that the naming convention is usually PS4 Linux followed by the digit, that is PS4 Linux 1, 2, and 3. So here we have the first distro, so I'm going to name it PS4 Linux 1. Okay, and in this partition, I'm going to install the Batocera, that is the base system of Batocera. So for this, we're going to require at least 7 to 8 GB. To be safe, I'm going to allot it around 10 GB. And to do that, you could either type here 10,000, or you could just use a scroller to come back to like 10,000. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, and then I'm going to click on add. So here we have the second partition. Now we're going to create the third partition, which will hold our BIOS, ROM, games and stuff. Okay, so I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to change the label to games. Okay, you could use any label here. It doesn't have to be games. It depends on you, whatever you want to use. I'm gonna choose games here. Okay, and then I'm gonna allot the rest of the empty space to this drive, because this is gonna hold a lot of games and ROMs and stuff. Okay, and then I'm gonna click on add. Talking about games and ROMs and stuff, it goes without saying that you need to own these games legally before you start playing them on Batocera. Okay, it also depends on your country's laws and stuff. So make sure that you've gone through your local laws and stuff before you start using Batocera. Okay, and then I'm gonna click on the tick right here, green tick, and then click on apply. So this will prepare the partition. Okay, that's it. It's done. I'm gonna close it. Okay, and then I'm gonna close this one too. And then here we have the terminal. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extract this Batocera distro onto the partition, that is PS4 Linux 1. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my folder here, and then I'm gonna go to PS4 Linux 1. Okay, and then I'm gonna come back to my terminal, and then I will type sudo space tar space hyphen xv capital J P F and then space, and then I'm gonna copy the link to the distro right here. I'm gonna right click here and click on copy and then paste it. We don't need this file portion. Okay, the raw link is enough. And then I'm gonna press space and then hyphen capital C and then a space again. Then I'm gonna copy the path to this partition, that is PS4 Linux 1. In your case, depending on the initramfs that you're using, it could be PS Zetarch or Arch or something else. Okay, once that is done, I'm gonna right click here and then click on paste and then press enter. So this will extract all the files of the base Batocera for PS4 onto this drive. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, and that's it. The extraction is complete, as you can see here. Okay, now I'm going to open the FAT32 partition that we had created. It will show up as 52 MB volume on your Linux computer. Here you can see there are 252 MB volumes. Just ignore this one. You won't find this one on your system. You'll have only 152 MB volume. Just click on it. Okay, and then copy the kernel, that is a BZ image and initramfs image right onto here. Okay, so that's copied too. Now we are left with the final step of the process. I'm going to go back to my PS4 Linux 1 partition, and then I'm going to go into the boot folder, and then I'm going to open this text file right here which says batoceraboot.conf, and then I'm going to go back to the terminal and type sudo space gparted and then press enter. Okay, and then let us go back to our drive and then just go to this third drive that we created for holding our games and stuff. I'm going to right click on it and go to information and then copy this particular thing which says UUID. Okay, I'm going to copy this whole string right here. I'm going to right click on it and click copy and then come back to this, and after the def provide a space and then just paste whatever you copied. Okay, right here. Now before saving this file, you'll have to close right here. Okay, I'm going to close gparted completely before saving this. And this also brings me to another point. We see that on some PS4 consoles, Batocera might have issues connecting to the Wi-Fi. So here is something of a workaround that you could use. Okay, if you are planning to use Wi-Fi, I suggest that you go through this. Okay, so to set up Wi-Fi, what I do is I have this Wi-Fi.ssid, and here I will provide my Wi-Fi access point name. For example, if yours is home Wi-Fi, just type in home Wi-Fi. Let's say home Wi-Fi. Okay, this is case sensitive, so make sure that you have your capitals and small letters properly written down here, and the Wi-Fi.key is your Wi-Fi password. Having your access point name and the password within this file will make sure that you're automatically connected to Wi-Fi on Batocera each time you restart. Else what we find is that each time you restart, you'll have to reconnect, and sometimes to reconnect itself, you'll have to restart. This is confusing, I know, but I have gone through this. So I suggest that if you're planning to use Wi-Fi, and let's say in some cases, some PS4 models only support Wi-Fi on Linux, the Ethernet doesn't work. So if that's the case, I suggest you do this, okay? But if you're not planning to use Wi-Fi, just delete all these 3 lines, okay? It should be fine. And once you're all set up with that, all you have to do is press Ctrl S to save the file. You'll have to provide your password, and then we could close it, okay? And that's it, guys. We are ready to boot Batocera on a PS4. Okay, let's get to it. Now I'm on my PS4 and I have connected the Batocera USB drive that we just prepared onto the PS4. Now go to your favorite host and choose any payload you wish. Like for example, you could choose a 1GB VRAM payload or 2GB or 3GB or whatever exists. Okay, it's up to you, whichever you want to choose. Okay. Now here we have my multi-boot script loading, showing that the boot was successful. And if you remember the instructions for my multi-boot script, I'll have to press 1 here because we need the partition PS4 next one. Okay, I'll press 1 to boot Batocera and press enter. So let us see, it is booting. And there we have the Batocera logo. So good till now. And yep, that's it. Okay. So that's it, guys. This is Batocera for PS4. Let me just quickly go into the system settings to show you that this is in fact the PS4 that is running Batocera. Yep, here we have my kernel version. As I've already said, due to a limitation on my capture card, I guess I had to go for 4.14, but you're free to choose a better kernel, for example say 5.x plus. Okay, and I chose the 1GB VRAM version, and that's why it is saying that I have almost 7016 MB of RAM available, and this is a CPU model which pertains to the exact model of the PS4 APU. And then here we have the other details which clearly says PlayStation 4 Liverpool and stuff. Okay, and the Mesa version is 22.0.3 currently. Okay, this will be updated later in the future. Okay, now let's go back. So one of the first questions that comes up in the minds of most of the people is, where are the other retro consoles? All I see is NES and Super Nintendo, super old consoles. Where are the PS2 and PSP and PSX? So this is what you have to understand. This is an intelligent system that Batocera uses. It only lists those consoles which have BIOS and ROMs available. Okay, for example, you'll have to load the BIOS and the ROM and the games for PS2, and only after that will PCSX2 show up in this menu, or the PS2 games would show up on this menu. Some default games come with Batocera, and that's what you see here. For example, Sega Mega Drive, if you go into that, you will see that Old Towers comes by default. Okay, so this currently only lists those games which are available on the drive itself. Okay, so now that begs the question, how do you add more games and BIOS and ROMs? Talking about the methods to add more games and ROMs to Batocera for PS4, there are multiple methods, but I'm going to talk about 3 major methods here. Okay, some of these are wireless and some of these are wired. Okay, so let's begin with the first, the simplest method, but it might be slower depending on your connection speed. The first method is completely wireless. Okay, and for this method to work, you'll have to make sure that both your PS4 running the Batocera and your Windows system are running on the same Wi-Fi network. Okay, for example, as you can see on the top right corner of my screen, you see the Wi-Fi logo. This is because the Wi-Fi is already connected. I already showed you how you could do that by default. You know, like even before booting into the system for the first time, you could set up your Wi-Fi system. I already showed you the steps for that. Okay. Now I have already made sure that both the PS4 running Batocera and my Windows system are running on the same Wi-Fi network. Okay. Now, before we move on to my Windows system, I'm going to quickly show you the games drive that we had created in the earlier step. To access the files on Batocera, all you have to do is press F1 on your keyboard, and this will open the file manager. And now I'm going to go to the games drive that we had created. As you can see, this has a new folder called Batocera. We do not have any files on it, but the first time it boots up, it will create all the necessary files right here. If we go into the Batocera folder, we have the necessary folders for the BIOS. We have the ROMs here, saves, and all that stuff. Okay. By the way, to go back to the Batocera menu, all you have to do is click close window, and we are back. Now I'm going to show you how you could move the files over. Let's get to my Windows system. So here I am on my Windows system, and I'm going to repeat it again, because if you hadn't noticed, you'll have to make sure that both the PS4 on the Batocera and your Windows system need to be on the same network. Okay, it doesn't matter if you connect it via the Ethernet or Wi-Fi, but both have to be on the same network for this to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this network bar and then type / and then Batocera. Okay, and press enter. As you can see, this brings up the folder share. Okay, so this is our games drive. I just showed you the games partition on Batocera for PS4, right? So this is that same drive that you see here with all the folders that we just saw. Now to move files over, all you have to do is copy it from wherever you have it on your system and then copy it to the relevant folders here. For example, let us try going into the BIOS folder, and then I'm going to create a new document here which says subscribe to PS4 Linux. Okay, and then we have this text document here. This is just a quick tutorial to show you how you could move files over and stuff. Okay, this is a simple document. It doesn't make sense to have a text file in the BIOS folder, I know. It is just to show you how this is gonna work. Okay, so we just copied it right here. Now let's just quickly jump back into the PS4 to see if this file has been created there too. Okay, back on my PS4, I'm gonna press on F1 to access the files, and then I'm gonna go back to my games folder, Batocera, BIOS. Okay, and here we have the file subscribe to PS4 Linux, and that brings me to the point. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and also click on the bell button if you haven't yet. Okay, you will get the notifications as soon as I upload something new. Okay, so this was the first method. Okay, the second method is using a USB drive. For example, I'm going to quickly plug in my USB drive onto the USB hub that I use. If you're on a PS4 Pro, you won't probably require a USB hub to plug this USB drive in because it has 3 ports, but depending on your requirements, you could plug that in. And as you can see, a new drive has popped up right here, new volume. So here we have a file called, click on the bell button. I'm going to copy it from there, and then I'm going to go into games, Batocera, BIOS, and then right click here, paste here. As you can see, this is appeared here. So this was the second method. Now talking about the third method, this will require you to shut down your Batocera for PS4. That is, the PS4 will have to shut down. And then what you're going to do is connect this USB drive that you have created for Batocera onto your Linux machine, and then open the games folder as we did in the first part of the tutorial, and then copy whatever games and ROMs and stuff you want into the corresponding folders here. This is probably the fastest method. The only drawback of this being that you'll have to shut down your system before you'll have to do this. Okay, so that was how you could quickly move your files and games and stuff to Batocera for PS4. 3 different methods I have shown you. Okay, next we're going to see how we could connect the DualShock 4 wirelessly to the Batocera for PS4. Okay, this could technically also be done wired, but I'm going to show you how to do it wirelessly. I haven't tried wired it. You could try it. Okay, to do it wirelessly, pick up your DS4 and then press on the share button and the PlayStation button together. Hold on to it together. Okay, for like 5 to 6 seconds, and it will start blinking white. Once it starts blinking white, all you have to do is come back to the Batocera for PS4, press on the spacebar to open up the menu, go into controller and Bluetooth settings, and just go to pair a Bluetooth device. So it will start scanning for devices, and it says pairing controller, and we have connected successfully. That is, a wireless controller has been connected successfully. Right now I'm scrolling using the DualShock 4's analog stick, as you can see. Okay, and that's it, guys. And as you can see, it also shows the battery level. If you look closely on the left corner, that is the left top corner, you will see that it also shows the battery status of my DualShock 4. And in the case of DualShock 4, if you want to open the settings, all you have to do is press on options, And then we have the settings right here. As you can see, I'm just going to quickly go into the controller and Bluetooth settings. You could also map your controller and stuff going to this. It will be probably a wizard. And that was it about the DualShock 4. Okay. Now that we have covered a few basics, now I'm sure that many of you are questioning, where is the terminal, right? I mean, what good is a Linux distro without a terminal, right? So I'm going to show you next how you could access the terminal within Batocera. So here's the catch. Batocera doesn't necessarily support a terminal within its system, okay? So you'll have to use SSH, that is remote access, to connect to the terminal on Batocera. And for that, we're going to require another device. There could be ways. I'm not saying that there aren't ways to directly access the terminal using Batocera, but that is not the official way. Even the official help page on Batocera says that you'll need to use another device. And I also believe that it is more convenient, especially if you're trying to monitor the CPU usage, the RAM usage and stuff like that. I'm going to show you that in a minute. So let's see how you could access the terminal on Batocera using your Windows system. Okay, the steps are pretty similar for almost every other system, but I'm going to show you on the Windows system. Okay, so to access Batocera's terminal on a Windows system, you'll require a small piece of software called Putty. I've already provided a link for that in the article that has been provided in the description. So here we have Putty. I've just pinned it to the taskbar for easier access. I'm going to open Putty, and then in the host name, I'm going to type root@Batocera. And again, you'll have to make sure that both your PS4 that is running Batocera and the Windows machine that you're connecting to Batocera from, both should be on the same network. Okay, there are ways to connect when you're on different systems, but that is more complicated. So I would suggest that you stay on the same network while doing this. Okay, so just type root@Batocera and make sure that it is SSH, and the port should be 22 by default, and then press open, and this pop-up is going to come up, and click accept on it. And as for the password, just type Linux, okay, and then press enter. And here we have Batocera terminal right here. Let me try typing htop, which will tell us how much RAM is in usage and stuff, right? As you can see, this is the core. We have 7 cores right here, and same time memory and the swap space and stuff. Okay, and then to quit this, I'm going to press on Q. And that's it, guys. That's how you access the terminal on Batocera. Okay, and finally, that was Batocera for you guys. Please keep in mind that this could be considered a beta version of Batocera for PS4. And if you face any issues, please make sure that you post about it in as much detail as possible on the forum. I'll provide the link to the forum thread in the description. Please make sure that you're making your post regarding any issues for Batocera. I'll try to fix it as soon as possible. And I hope you like this video. If you want more of this stuff, please consider donating to the cause. And I do have a link for the donation in the description. If you feel that my work is worthy of your donation, my work is worthy of a little money from your side, I'd be happy with it, because there are expenses involved with these processes. Even if you are not able to donate, it doesn't matter, because all I care for is your support and love. And thank you for all the support that you have provided to the cause, that is PS4 Linux, the website and the forums. Please keep supporting. I'll be back with more awesome stuff for the PS4, that is specifically the PS4 Linux scene. And if you haven't yet subscribed, no better time than this to subscribe. Also click on that bell button and leave your comments and your valuable feedback in the comment section. Please like the video if you liked it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, guys.